So the first thing you want to do is you want to concentrate on the headstock portion. You want to look at your the spindle to see if you have any nicks or bumps or grinds in here. And if you do, you want to get a little needle file. And if you got any nicks, you just want to file them out.
You're not filing the threads, are you?
Very gently. If there's a nick on there,
On the thread.
on the thread, just the thread.
Okay.
Okay. The way you get those nicks on there is if you're improperly putting your chuck on.
Right.
Okay. So the way you're supposed to put a chuck on is do this and then spin the wheel. Okay. So that's the proper way to do that.
It's even harder when you have a piece of wood on there already.
That's right. That's right. It is. So, but the other thing you might want to do with your chuck, you might want to get a brush. Either this is a plastic one or a brass one, and you get it in there. This one's a little not the correct one, but you want to clear out the threads there. You just want to keep all the little pieces of schmutz and sawdust out of the thing, right? Next thing you want to do is take off the tailstock and the banjo. This lathe is in really good shape right now. But every time you're done with your lathe, especially if you're turning wet wood, you want to make sure you dry this off. Okay, so especially all that new wood that we just got a couple months ago from John's house, you know, I'm turning that stuff and it's, you know, I'm wet, the lathe is wet, the wall is wet. You want to make sure you dry that off real good. Okay. If you do have shellac or any other type of finish on there, you would want to either use a piece of Scotch-Brite and clean that off. If it's real thick on there, you could use WD-40, maybe lacquer thinner, mineral spirits in order to clean off any of the, you know, your Mylan's friction polish, anything like that. Mm-hmm. You would then, once that's all done, and if it's really bad, you can actually use a little sanding block or one of these little pads. I think that this isn't really good shape. I really don't want to do it, but you can just clean it up with that. Mm-hmm. Then to protect this, you can put some Johnson's paste wax. This was discontinued about 3 years ago. These are going for about $150 now on eBay. They used to be $10, right? Luckily, I found out as soon as it got discontinued, I bought 3 cans, so I got a lifetime supply now. This is okay. Yeah, right. But it's a, you know, I've been using this since high school. Yeah, right? It was like a standard finish. If you don't have that, any of the other paste wax will do. Bow Shield is another product you can use on any of your cast iron surfaces, whether it's this, your bandsaw, or your table saw, right? If you don't have this, you could use a WD-40, but you do want to coat this real well, all right?
You wouldn't use any kind of oil or anything, right?
You could, I mean, well, not oil, I don't use oil. I usually put, I mean, you could, I mean, that's, I usually use the Johnson's paste wax. Next thing you want to do is make sure that this is nice and cleaned off, and you would want to wax this as well, right? Because what you're looking to do is reduce as much friction as you can. Actually, I want to put this on here. This doesn't look all that good. So I always thought this was a miracle. This is what we used to put on, we called this finishing the finish. And so if we put a lacquer or a polyurethane on the project, we would clean up with steel wool and this in order to get a real nice finish on there. So as long as I'm out here, I'm going to do this as well. And you would leave that on there for a minute or so, and then buff that off. So again, we're looking for a completely friction-free surface. You're going to do the same thing with your banjo, right? So you certainly want to get these mating surfaces here. So I'm going to clean that. Oops. I'm going to put that like this. Again, especially, you should do this probably once a month, depending how much you're using the lathe. Right, especially when you're doing all that wet wood. Might want to spray some WD-40 on this locking bar here. How many people have never done this? Yeah, you're still new.
Every time it catches it or doesn't slide easily or.
So this is what you're looking for, a nice smooth finish. One thing on the, going back to the spindle, you ought to clean out the Morse taper. Now, obviously, the spindle has two purposes. It's got the 1x8 thread, or on this particular lathe, or 1 1/4 for the bigger ones over there. This tool is for to clean this out, but this isn't available anymore. So if you don't have this, you could use a big test tube brush, or you could use maybe some paper towel and a dowel and clean this up, because the important part is that surface matches perfectly with your Morse taper here, right? And so that's a good friction fit, and you want not to be any dust or nicks. You can inspect the drive center, live center as well. There's a little bit of rust on this. And you would want to clean this off too. Like I said, there's actually a little bit of rust on this. Okay. And then you're gonna put this back. The Headstock. This is actually a nice little lathe.
Did you buffle up the wax on the table before you put that back on?
Yes.
On the bottom, on the table I did. On the table I did. Okay. You might want to get your quill as well. Some of these come off real easy. This one doesn't. But you would want to clean this. There's actually a little bit of rust on this. And get the rust off of that. And it's okay to spray this with either some WD-40 or you can put some wax on this too. Again, you're just looking for just to move very, very freely. Let's see. A really important part is keeping your tool rest cleaned out. Or I should say, filed. Right, so this tool rest is a good example of a bad tool rest edge. So if I run my fingernail across here, this is really bumpy. So as your tools generally are moving back and forth like this, depending how much friction is coming on, a bunch of pounding that's happening with the wood, these can get beaten up, especially on these cast iron jobs. Like the newer ones, the robust ones, they've got a piece of hardened drill rod on there. They're a lot harder to ding. But if you guys felt this is really rough. This is almost a sawtooth up here, right? So that sawtooth is actually going to translate into your moving the tool back and forth. And if it's bad, it's at that the ding in here is going to transfer into the wood that you're turning. Okay. So the way you fix that is just get a mill file. I was looking for files from Scott. Where's Scott? I was looking for like real mill files. You don't have any since you're a wood shop.
I do.
Oh, you do?
In a different drawer.
Oh, in a different drawer. Okay. So I found this one, and all you really got to do, you usually get a bigger one, and you want to file this down to make sure that it's nice and smooth. I found your rasp in there, your wood rasp.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to put that on that.
No. I know you'd yell at me if I pulled out one of those. So you want to keep that nice and level and free of dings. Okay. That's pretty much it. If you wanted to, you could take the back cover off and see if you've got any type of debris on your pulleys. I would blow them out or brush it out. And that's pretty much it. So yeah, but again, that's what you want.
Bob, is that a variable speed? You got
This one's not, no. Variable speed if you change the belts. You know, I really prefer the variable speed with the potentiometer on there.
You're just flattening that, right? You're not
I'm just
trying to
flattening.
round it.
No. I'm trying to get off I'm trying to get the sawtooth off of that.
Right.
If you felt it, you would feel it. Okay, and then you could also, at the end of that, put a little bit of wax on top of that. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So now you know how to do that. Once you have this done, then you're ready to start your regular turning. Okay, that's pretty much it. Any questions? Nabil? Anil?
On the bed, I cleaned the bed as you explained,
Yep.
did everything, the base of that. After that, when I tighten it, it's not 100% tight, no matter what I do.
Repeat the question, please.
Okay, so sometimes and I've seen this on different lathes, right? Sometimes when you lock the banjo down, it's not tight, right? So that's really just a matter of adjusting the nut on the bottom here. Now, some lathes are much better at that, so like Robust and
How about the one you and I
the
had?
one way, the Galaxy, I've always had a problem with that, yeah.
I'm not
And
doing
it's got to be just right. And I find that really on the tailstock, on the Galaxy, I'm always really giving that a real jam.
Yep.
And what I've done, the way I fixed that for a long time, I was actually hitting that with a wooden mallet. And what I do now, I've got a piece of aluminum pipe. I'm sorry, not a piece of copper pipe. Aluminum pipe would work also. And that gives me that extra leverage in order to lock this
I've
down.
been using a mallet to tighten it because
Yeah.
it slides.
That's what I was doing that for years. It finally occurred to
I
me.
stopped cleaning it.
Yeah, now I got a piece of pipe that sticks about here. And that gives me that leverage in order to lock that down. But if you're having trouble,
with
this
both.
actually happened yesterday. Had a gentleman in here and he was really cranking down and he got this knob or this lever and he went all the way around with it, right? That's how much force he had on it. So all I really did, just came on the bottom and tightened up the nut. And it's sometimes this is a real fine adjustment to get it down locked really well. Okay. So if you wanted to, you could also, in fact, to tell you the truth, I don't think I've ever done this. If you wanted to take out the jaws if you are changing out the jaw set, if you want to blow out any sawdust or shavings or sawdust, either blow it out or brush it out with a small brush. Okay. So that's pretty much that.
I got a question.
Any other questions, Tom?
Yeah, so one of the jaws that I have, I unscrewed it to the point where they came off the
Mhm.
bottom. And I had a hell of a time
That's a-
lining it back
Yes,
up properly.
yeah.
Man,
Yeah, so
What a
that's a really good question. And I've only found that once. And it was during one of the cleanouts that we had,
yeah,
right? So most chucks, when you go into expansion mode, they'll stop. What he's talking about, and the experience that I had, was if you turned it all the way out, the jaws would
they
come
slide
out.
right off.
They come right off. They don't lock, and they're difficult to get back on.
But not to get back on, but to line them up
Right,
so
well,
that they
yeah.
squeeze
It's the same
together
thing, yeah.
evenly,
Yeah, that was-
So
you know?
in that case, you have to identify the number one jaw, then the number two jaw, three jaw, right? And then you have to be looking inside here to see where that screw is. There's a flat screw.
The thing
That
is
act-
that it's
that
like a
activates it.
spiral, and that
I know.
spiral is what pulls it in.
I know.
But where does that spiral start? and
You can
where
see
do you
it.
Put in.
If you look in there, you can
Uh-huh.
see that spiral, but
Maybe I
it's
didn't see
difficult.
that then.
I sold that chuck real fast. I did not like that chuck because it felt like it wasn't even all the way out, but it came out right away. It was a Russian manufacturer called Bison. It was a Bison chuck. Any of the other chucks, like the one ways, the Hurricanes, the Novas, the other ones, I haven't really seen that. Is it
Together, but one of the spaces
Yeah.
is still a
And then
little bigger than the other, so
Yeah,
I'm
so-
not touching this.
So then you've got three jaws that are working and the fourth one isn't too far.
It looks like they're all grabbing, but
Yeah,
when you tighten it, on some of the gaps, it's just a little bit bigger, you can see it.
Yep.
So,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just didn't want to play with it
It's
anymore.
maddening.
I screwed around.
Is
with
it
now.
an Oriental one? Is it a Japanese?
Sorry?
Is it a Japanese one? Is it the one I found was a Russian made?
I don't know what it is. It
Okay.
could be one way, but I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I'd be surprised. There's one way makes really nice chucks.
No, it's a good chuck.
Yeah,
Just that I took it apart.
yeah,
I screwed up.
yeah. You didn't screw up.
I shouldn't have taken it apart.
You didn't screw up. It was a bad design to begin with,
Probably.
right? So don't beat yourself up on that one. Any other questions?
You have to adjust this way.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you. So yeah, on these types of lathes, where the headstock doesn't rotate. So the Galaxy and the new Nebula, you know, the headstock will switch. You've got the less expensive Grizzly. Not anymore. I know you sold it. But if the headstock swivels out, then you have to get it realigned, right? So the easy way to do that is bring up the centers, and then you have to look both this way and this way to make sure that they are aligned properly. Now they do have there is a tool called a double-ended Morse taper, which is about 6 inches long and it fits in here and here. And so like on the Nova products, what happens is once you rotate that in, you put the double-ended Morse taper in and then pull these together, and then you lock down the headstock. And that way you're okay. Then you're aligned. The problem if you don't do this, it's not a problem if you're turning a ball, right? Because you're not really needing the tailstock. Where it becomes important is if you're making small parts like a pen, right? So if you're a 64th of an inch out, because this is one way, a half a degree off or so, or a degree off, it'll show up exponentially on that very thin piece of veneer that you have wrapped around a brass tube. That's when you'll see it, right? So,
But if that's the case, you would either loosen the bolts on the headstock to try to
if you,
wiggle a little
Yeah,
bit,
but
or shim it to try to get.
you know, I've never really had to do this. This one's actually off a little bit. But in that case, yeah, we'd have to loosen this and pull it. But you usually don't have to do that.
Right.
And it might be this particular live center also. I'd have to check that with another one. So, cool. How many people are still working on mini lathes at home? 4, 5? Well, you got a big one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're using your mini lathe as a buffing machine, aren't you? Yeah. So if you wanted one of these lathes as a buffing machine, you can get one cheap tonight. Any other questions? Good.
So the Morse taper tool isn't available?
You want to grab it, Scott? Double-ended Morse taper?
The cleaner, the reamer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wrong thing. I'm sorry. I missed it. This is not available anymore. Yeah, I think they discontinued them a couple of years ago. But like I said, you get like a big test tube brush and run it in there, and you would do that on both ends.
You could almost make them.
Well, it's rubber. I don't know.
That's rubber,
Can you?
yeah.
Does 3D printing work on rubber? I don't know.
You can make it out of GPU, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, I think a test tube brush.
And by the way, I appreciate the fact that you're calling it a Morse taper instead of a Morris taper, which a lot of people call it.
No.
But there was Stephen A. Morse is the guy who invented the
Yeah,
taper.
it's one.
Did you do the codes too?
No, different guy. That's Samuel. That's Samuel.
That was his cousin Dot.
His other cousin was Summerford, right?
It's two cousins, Dot and Dash.
Right. So we're back to Scott with the
We're back to Scott
table?
with the table saw.